Hey guys, welcome to Intro to Coding by myself, Kausto. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about what is coding, how to learn coding fundamentals, and then we're going to use Python to learn more about the fundamentals. But yeah, so what is coding? Coding is how you communicate with the computer. How do you communicate? It's like the real world, where if you use languages like English, Spanish, etc. But in the computer world, we're going to be using languages like Python, JavaScript, etc. So, coding languages. These are a couple of popular coding languages: Python, JavaScript, Java, R, C, C++, Golang, C#. Each one of them has their own purpose, and they have their own quirks and syntax, but we're going to be learning Python since that's one of the easier ones to learn. So, how do you learn? Well, all you have to do is learn the fundamentals. If you know the fundamentals, you can basically learn any other coding technologies or other languages if you just know the fundamentals. Now, to learn programming and coding is just problem solving, and all you have to do is practice to get better at it. So, what are the fundamentals we're going to learn? We're going to be learning variables, conditions, operators, functions, and loops. Now, instead of me just trying to define each one of these, we're going to be using Python and learning all those basics, fundamentals. But yeah, the first thing you have to do is install Python. First, you can go to python.org and click download and download Python 3.10.4. That's the latest on the time of recording this video. And after you install Python, we're going to be using another program called VSCode. Now, VSCode is an IDE, and IDEs are just something that helps us code. It's like a text editor for coding. So just install that by After you install Visual Studio Code, just open it up and it should look similar like this. It's going to be looking a little different because I installed some extensions. So open it up and click on the extensions tab on the left, and search up Pylant right here and install that, and then search up Python and install that. Now after that, this is optional, but you can make it look better by going to bearded theme right there, and that's what I'm using. There's multiple options to use it, so set color theme, you can choose any of that, and then you can go to material icons. It should be this one, material theme icons, and press install on that. It should install, and if you scroll down here, you can see all the. Oh, never mind. But install that, and then you should be ready to go. So after that, it's currently a blank screen. What you have to do is open up your folder where you want to save your code. So click on File, Open Folder, and then go to wherever you want to hold your code. So I'm going to Coding Club, Coding Tutorials, YouTube, and that. And I'm going to select the YouTube folder, and there we go. Now, let me just delete that. Okay. So now make a new file called main.py. Now basically you can name whatever you want, but it's like kind of a good practice to name it main. And then to make your computer know it's a Python, like the Python language, you have to enter in .py and press enter, and you just made a Python file. So as I talked about the fundamentals, variables, and etc. Before that, we're going to be learning about an inbuilt function in Python called print. Now print is basically the easiest way to display text on your computer. So to do that, we're going to do print parentheses double quotes, and we're going to write in this hello world. Now in Visual Studio Code, you have to save your code after you edit it. So press Ctrl S, and it saves the code, and you can run it by there's gonna be a run button at the top right. Run it, and you can see it printed hello world right there. So you can print anything like hello YouTube, and you can see hello YouTube. So now the first thing I want to talk about is data types. So right now when you're printing the hello YouTube, it is a string, and a string is a text of words. So here, and to make Python know it's a text of, it's like a list of words and stuff, you basically use double quotes, and then it tells Python that's a string, and that's just letters. So in the string you can write like hello YouTube, right? And that's a string. Now and also hashtag is comments. So comments in coding is basically like typing something and it won't run. It basically won't run when you do it. It doesn't affect your code. So say hashtag this runs, this prints hello YouTube. Save this and run it. You can see down here it's the same thing. It doesn't do anything. It's usually used for when other people look at your code, they can see what your code is for, or like a description of your code. So that's why you use comments, and to do a comment again, you do a hashtag and write whatever you want. So like I was saying, strings are just a list of words, and you basically use double quotes to tell Python that it's a string, right? So after that, there's another data type called integers. Now, as you guessed, integers are just numbers. So you can be like 23, and that's basically an integer. Now there's also something like floats, and now floats are like the numbers with decimals. So you can be like 23.5. Now that won't be an integer anymore, that's going to be a float. Now there's like the two main things, but then there's also something called boolean, and boolean is basically just true or false. So true, so the T has to be a capital, so true, that's a boolean. And there's also false, and that's a boolean. Now we're gonna learn about these more in the future, but those are like the current strings. So I'm gonna comment these one more time, and the thing about the VSCode is if you select whatever you want to comment, press Ctrl/, it comments it automatically for you. So so these are like the data types, and we're going to use Python to print out the type of data types. So to do that, we're going to use another built-in function called type. So we're going to do type, and put that in parentheses, hello world, save our file, and when you press run, it says class stir. Now stir means string, so hello YouTube is string. Now if we type in 23, save this, run, you can see that's an int. Int means integer. And if you do 23.5, you can see that's a float. Now if you type true, the capital T, true, run this, you can see bool, and that stands for bool. So those are the data types. Now we basically know how to represent data in Python now, but that's not really fun, right? What we want to do is make logic with them, because that's what coding is about. So to make logics, we use something as operators. So the first thing we're going to learn, there's different types of operators, but the first thing we're going to learn is arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are basically like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So to add floats or integers, since those are the ones that you can add, you're going to use a plus, and that's for adding. Now to subtract, you just use a minus, that's for subtraction. Now to multiply, you use the star asterisk, and that's to multiply. And to divide, you use a slash, and that's to divide. Oh, I can't spell today, that's fine. So we're gonna print and do these operators. So the first thing we're gonna do is let's print 5 plus 5, like that, and we should see 10, and you can see we have got 10. Now let's divide it, or subtract it, save our file, and you can see we got 0. Now we can multiply it by using the asterisk, like this, and you can see we got 25. Now you can also divide it. You should get 1 when we divide it, and you see we got 1. So that's the arithmetic operators. There's also comparative operators. Now comparative operators don't really return a value, but they return boolean value. So to comparison operators, as you guessed it, is to compare something. So to compare something, we use some equals to, and it checks if the two values are equal. Now there's also a greater than operator, which checks if one value is greater than the other. And there's also like the other one, which are the same thing. I'm just going to go like that. Now there's also an operator to check if they're like greater than or equal to, and to do that you do equal greater than equal to, or you can do and equal to, less than, and oh my god, you're equal to, and that checks if one value is greater than or equal to the other. So that's the comparison operator. Alright, now we're gonna actually test the comparison operators. So we can just do 5, and we can do this less than 5. If we save this, run it, we should see false. So if we do something like 10, we should get true. Now if I flip this around, we should get false. There we go. So and then if we say equals to, probably gonna get false. Change this to 5, true. If we change this to 3, we get false. So that's the comparison operator. Now there's also equals to. I forgot to do it. So equals to checks if value equal to each other. So if we have something like that, this should return false. False. Now if we do 5, it should have true. Now we're gonna be talking about input. So input is another inbuilt function in Python. So just do, actually no, forget about that. We're gonna first learn variables. Now that's our first fundamental coding fundamental we talked about is variables. Now variables, you can just give the data types names. So if you say age, you can equal that to 23. 23 is a data type, right? So yeah, those are variables. You just assign a name to data types. So we're gonna do something like say age equals 23, and then we're going to do say year equals 2022. Add that procedure. So if you print if you print age, year minus age, we should have their date of birth. So you can see 1999, and if you're supposed to be 18, you should have been born at 2004. So, and that's variables. Now the next thing I'm going to talk about is input. Now this whole time we've been like hard coding our thing, but what if other people want to use our code? We're going to have something called input. So for input, it's another like inbuilt function, so you don't have to like define it or anything. You just have to do input parentheses, and that should be it. So now when you run it, you can actually type stuff. But for now, our age, I'm gonna say is 23, and something happened. Oh, alright. For now, let's just print our age. And if we run this, and let's go blah blah blah, we'll see blah blah blah. But the thing is, before why we got an error is because it's taking the input as a stir. So if we do that and run the code and go that, it's thinking of it as stir, a string. Even if we do 4035 something, it's still gonna think it's a string. So to convert this or any data type from string, you have to go if you want to turn a string into an integer, you can do int, and we'll make that input into integer. If you want to make an integer into a string, you can do str like that, and that'll become a string. So now we should do print year minus age. That should work now. And if we type in 2006. Now what, like when we're running the program and we're typing stuff, you don't really know you have to type stuff, and you don't know what we're gonna type. The user doesn't know what to type, so you have to give them like a prompt. And to give them a prompt, we can type in we can pass in a string here. So if we say enter your age, this, and let's run this again. Let me press this time, and let's run this. And now it says enter your age, and now you can just be like 28, and it says 1994. Now until now we've been just like printing like using arithmetic operators, but there's also other operators called string operators. So basically what you can do is something like your age, right, plus, this plus, and then do year minus age. Now if you save this, and this has to be should be here. Your age is 28, right? We run that. Actually, let's comment these two out once again, and it didn't print either. Okay, your age is 28. So that's string operators. You can also multiply this by 3, and that should print out 3 times. Your age is, your age is, and your age is. Now this is helpful because if we have like an age like this, we can just do print /age. Now, but when we do this, we're gonna have an error because it's an integer, so you can't do string operations with the integer and a string. This has to be a string. So if we do stir and complete that, run that, your age 26, it should say your age is 26. So we can just do year minus age, and that should print out the year where you're born in. So say 15, so it should 16, and that should print 2006. So that's basically string operators. Now there's a special type of string, like another inbuilt function called f strings. Now f strings, basically you can do f, and now to represent f string you just do f and a string like right next to it, and then Python knows it's an f string. Now it has all the same features as a string, so you can type in whatever you want. It's going to be the same. Let's run this. Run this. There you go. It's the same. The cool part is whenever you type in brackets, you can add Python operators inside the string itself. So you can do 6 + 6, enter, save, and you can see 12. So basically you can add in operators and do normal Python inside of the string, inside the brackets. So in here we can just type in year instead, run this, and 2022, and you can see that you didn't have to turn this into a string. It's still an integer, right? And this is basically just a more convenient way of typing in dynamic data in Python. So just uncomment this, and I can just say you were born in now if we type in 16, see you were born in, oh, I forgot to do the operation. Do this. Your age is 26. You were born in 1996. So this is working. So we're gonna move on from this to if statements. Now that was one of our other fundamentals. Now if statements are kind of the same thing. Basically they run a certain amount of code if a certain operation is true. So if, and then you can just say something like 6 plus 6 equals 6. We're gonna run print 6 is equal to 6. Now when we run this, we should basically get 6 is equal to 6, and because this is true. So basically when it's running 6 equals to 6, now you know how that returns to true. So it's basically running if this is true, we're gonna do this. Now to know that this piece of line is for the if statement, we have to indent it. If you don't indent it, we're gonna get an error, right? So if I just type in like print lol, right? Save this, run. It's only gonna print lol. Oh, yeah, sorry. If this is how do I explain this? Actually, you don't. Okay, I'm gonna give up. Okay, so basically, if it's not indented, it's not in the if loop, so it's not gonna run just if 6 equals 6. So actually, if I turn this to 5, run it, you can see 6 equals to 6, but not lol, since that's not equal to each other anymore. So you have to indent it to actually be in the if like statement block. Now, I'm gonna change this back to 6 is 6. Now another block we have off the if statement is else. Now else is basically if this is not true, it's going to do this. So we're gonna print 6 is not, I forgot, 6 is not equal, right, to 5. Now if we run this, we can see 6 is equal to now 5. Since this wasn't true, it's gonna run this. Now inside of the else statement, we can have another if statement. So if let's say 5 equals 5, we're gonna do print 5 is 5. If you run this, and we should get 5 is 5. Now most of the times you don't want to have if statements instead of else statements, because Python also offers elif. So basically elif is basically if it doesn't work, check another condition like 5 equals 5, and basically we can print 5 is 5, and basically we're going to get 5 is 5.
So it's basically going like if 6 equals 5, do this, but if not, check if 5 equals 5, then do this. Now inside the elif, we can have another else, right? And print not equal. Now save this, run, and we can see, oh yeah, let me just change that to 4 and make that not equal to each other, and now you can see not equal. Now you can have multiple elifs before the else, so just go like that, change this to 3, print tab, save, and you can see not equal. If you just do 3, it's 3, change this to 3, we should get 3 is 3. So that's conditionals. So the next fundamentals we're going to be talking about is loops. Now loops are basically if you want to run a certain amount of code for a certain amount of time. So the first thing we're going to talk about is while loops. While loops basically run until a condition is false. So if we say while 6 equals 6, we're going to print 6 is 6, right? Now if we run this, you can see it keeps printing it, like there's no stop to it. It keeps on printing it, right? Because it's in a while loop. So this is going to be an infinite loop, so it's just going to keep printing forever, so you should not do this. But that's basically just a while loop. If a condition is true, it's going to run it for a certain amount of time. So if you can say let's say we have a variable named x, and that is equal to 0, we can say while x is less than 0, alright, less than 6, we're gonna print lol. Now each time we're going to do x equals x plus 1. So if we run this, we should get lol a couple amount of times. So oh, it didn't work. What? X, oh, we had to do global x. Wait, why is this not working? Let's run this again. X equals 1 plus x. Okay, so basically the while loop we're still running. Had to close off the thing, like delete it and then run it again. But yeah, so if you run this, you can see we got lol 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, because it starts off as 0, right? X is 0, and we're saying while x is less than 6, we're gonna print lol. So basically first time it's gonna go, okay, x is 0 and that's less than 6, so that's gonna be true. Now so since it's true, it's gonna print lol, and it's gonna increase x by 1. So we're saying x equals add 1 to x, so it's gonna add 1 to x each time. So then the second time it runs, it's gonna be 1 is less than 6 still, so print lol, and we're gonna add 1 to x again. And then the third time it runs, x is 3, and that's still less than 6, so it's gonna print lol until it reaches 7, and that is not less than 6, so the while loop is gonna stop. Now if you want to stop a while loop early, you can use an if statement, like if x equals 3, we're gonna do break. Now it's gonna break is like another keyword, and whenever you type in break, it's gonna like break out of the while loop. So let me just make this smaller, like that. Run it, and you can see we got lull 3 times because when x was equal to 3, it broke out of the loop. So that's while loops. The next thing next type of loop we're gonna be talking about is for loop. Now for loop is usually used for iteration, but we'll get to that later. But for loop, you can just do for I in range. We can say 6. We can do print I. Save this, run, and you can see we get until 5. So basically what this is doing is for 6 number of times do this, but each time make I greater. So instead of like doing x plus 1 all the time, we can use a for loop like this, and it automatically increments the value itself. So you can do so basically x, the first time it runs it's 0, the second time it runs it's 1. Basically it's the same thing as before, but in a for loop you can do it in a shorter amount of time. But this is more for iteration. So if you have x equals like LOL now, and you can say for x and x, actually for I in x, print x. Now this is what it's gonna print is LOL 3 times. So basically it's just like iterating it. Wait, no. Run this again. Isn't that right? Alright, let's change x into lol. Save this. So yeah, since there is what did I just do? Okay, since there's 3 letters in LOL, it's going to keep printing LOL. But I actually wanted to change this to I to see what I actually meant. If we run this, now we can see individual letters, blah. So basically, for I, inside of lol, print I. So the first time it runs, it's gonna get the first letter, so L. So when I is L, do this. Then when I is O, do this. Then when I is L, do that. So basically the same thing, but you can say if I equals O, we can do another break. Now that should be the same thing, and there you go, LO break. Now that's loops. The next thing we're going to talk about is data structures. Now data structures is basically when you want to hold multiple data types in one variable. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is a list. So a list is basically, this is how you define a list. So let's just say a list is, actually no, let me change that to x. X equals brackets. Now brackets is basically identifying a list, and now we can have multiple data. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Actually, I may make it, I'm gonna do the whole thing again, fruits, and I'm gonna equal that to a bunch of strings. So let's say apple is a fruit, orange is a fruit, let's say lemon is a fruit. I think lemon is not a fruit. What am I doing? Say watermelon. Right. Now if I print fruit, and run this, basically you can see we got a list, right? But That's basically a list. It's basically to hold multiple values, but you can also just get individual values. That's called basically like you can access individual data. So to do that, we have something called an index. Basically, in the list, apple has an index of 0, orange has the index of 1, watermelon has the index of 2. So to print out indexes, we'd use another brackets inside of fruits, and you pass in the index. Now save this, run. We only see apple, right? Because that has the first index. Now if we do 2, that's gonna print orange, and if we do 2, that's gonna print watermelon. Just like that. Now you can also print like 0 to 2 like this, and that's gonna print only apple to orange because we were 0 to 2 until 2. It's not gonna print 2, it's gonna print everything before 2. Now if the value is 0 in like the between, you can just delete that 0 and it's still gonna be the same thing. But you can also do something like 1, and if you leave this blank, it's gonna automatically change this to the length of your thing. So it's gonna print everything from 1 to all the way down to however many data is in it. Now that's basically accessing data in each one. Now we can also, this is where for loops are usually used for, so we can do for I in fruits. We can do print I. You can see it like iterates through and prints all of those in. So that's where you actually use for loops for, is to iterate through lists and other data types. But yeah. Now other thing you can do is print fruits. Another thing you can do is remove data in lists. So to remove data, we use fruits.pop. Now pop is another inbuilt Python function, and to pop it, you give an index, and it'll basically delete that item from that index. And you can see orange and the watermelon. Now if I type in 0, it should only print orange. That's how you remove lists. Now there's also another inbuilt function in Python to remove a data in list. That's called the remove. But in here you have to actually type in the value instead of the index. So if you say apple, you can see we got the same result. Now you can also change values. So to change value, you get the index, and you basically say that's equal to something like a mango. And we can update that data right there, and we have mango instead. So that's lists. Now there's also tuples like this. You can say 1, 0, 3. Print fruits. Run that, and you can see 1, 0, 3. The only thing about tuples is they're immutable. Immutable means you can't change the value after it's declared, right? So yeah, that's a tuple. Now there's also something called sets. That's where you just basically go 0, 1, 2, 3. This run, that's a set, right? But we usually use lists and dictionaries the most, but this is a dictionary. So when you have dictionaries, you basically have a key and a value. So instead of indexes, we can set the index ourselves, like 1, actually 0, and we can set that to apple. Now you can do the same thing for the first index, and set that to was it orange? Oh, and we have to have commas if you want like their value. So say 2, and we want that to be a watermelon. And in fruit, we're gonna go bin 0, run. You see we got apple. So basically, the thing about dictionaries is we don't have to have 1, 2 zeros. We can say fruit 1, right? Now we can copy that inside here, and it should give us the same result. And you see we got apple. So basically it's the same thing as a list, but we have keys now and actual values. Now this is useful for like holding something like cars. So say we have car 1, right? And we basically have the company it's from, and we can say the company is Tesla. Now we can also have the model, say model, and we can say that's the Model S, and we can say owner, and we can say that to Mr. Stokes. So Mr. Stokes, change that to car 1, and now we have like company, and we can see Tesla. So basically it's like relational data types. That's when you have to use dictionaries. So you can see car 2, and we can do Honda, model CRV. Now if you type in C car 2, now you can see we got Honda. So that's when you like multiple data types that we don't have relational data, like so all of them have company, a model, and owner. That's when you use something like dictionaries. So that's all our data structures. Data structures, basically summary, big data structures are to hold multiple data types in one variable. So now this brings us to like our last two fundamentals, which is an function. Actually, yeah, this is actually our last fundamental, is functions. Now functions is basically when you it's like a block of code that you can call anywhere to run. So to make a function, we can do def, and you have to name a function, say add, right? Actually, we're gonna name that to add to, and we have to do parentheses, colon, and indent to note, and that this, all the lines that are indented here, we'll know they're part of the function add to. So basically we're going to say print 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2. Oh my god. 2 plus 2. Now, if you save this and run it, it won't actually do anything. We have to actually call it and say add 2 and go like this and run. So we can also put this in like a for loop. So say for in range 3, and we can do add 2, type in the parentheses, and you can see 4. So basically when you have a bunch of lines that do the same thing, you can just make that into a function and just call the function, right? And that'll save a bunch of lines. So I'm gonna make another function called 3, which is basically gonna add 3 on it to itself, right? And that's basically gonna give me, oh, I didn't change the 3. Now if you run it, we see we have 6. Now basically you can see these two are very similar. All I changed was the 3 to a 2, Now Python has think of it and gave something called parameters. Basically, if we type if we want just like add function and say 3, and we want to add 3 to 3 itself, we can do that. So basically in add, delete that, we can take something called parameters. Now parameters are you declaring variables when you're actually calling the function. So this is a parameter and this is an argument. So basically when you're calling that function and you're passing in a value, this is an argument. Now that 3 is going to be turned into 6 when you actually do the function. I mean the x is going to be turned into a 3 because when we're calling it, we set x equal to 3 right here. And when it runs, it's going to be 3 plus 3 instead. When we run it, you see we got the same exact result, but it was more dynamic. So we can say print 2 here instead, and we should get a mixture. Yep, 6 4 6 4 6 4. You know. So though that's a function. Now you can have multiple parameters like y. You can do x plus y, and now and when you're calling the function, you can pass in 2 arguments. You can assign 2 variables, and you can put this as a 6. Now when you run it, you can see we got 9 3 times. So that's basically a function. So right now, you basically master the basics of Python. Pat yourself in the back. Good job. But right now, we're gonna actually do a project to actually remember all of what we learned. Now it's gonna be a really simple project. It's basically just gonna be a to-do list. Now, in any mini project, big project, anything, I first want to define what the functionality is gonna be. So the first thing I want it to be is it's basically gonna store a bunch of to-dos, right? Because it's a to-do list. To-dos. I want to be able to delete, right? I want to be able to add, and then I want also to be awarded points. So each time I finish a to-do, I want to add points to my overall. So that's what I want. The first thing is how are we gonna contain all the to-dos? Now to contain all the to-dos, we're gonna be using a list. That's simple, right? And then to add something into our to-do list, I'm gonna do input. Actually, say to-do equals first. Input first to do. Oh guys, when I talk about arrays, I forgot how you add a data to to-dos. So this is how you do it. You basically do to-dos dot append. Now you can do a to-do. So basically when we're appending it, this adds it to the last of the list. So if you have something like boiler to do, and it's basically gonna add to do after your boiler to do. So print to do's. Save this first to do lol. And we can see boiler, to do, and lol. So that's what append does. Now I'm gonna change the thingy a bit, and I'm gonna say enter to do. Right? Now change that to lol, and you can see it looks a little better. So after that, now we have a way of adding a to-do. Now I want a better way of showing a to-do. So for that, I'm basically going to do a for loop. For I in todos, basically gonna print, and I talked about f strings, so we're gonna do an f string, do I dot, and then we're gonna do actually no, not I, we're gonna do I here, but here it's going to be x. Now basically we're gonna do x equals 0, x equals 1, and then each time x is gonna add x equals x plus 1. So I'm gonna take this, enter, and we should see enter to do lol sup, and you see we got lol and sup, but it's 1 for some reason. What do I do? Why is it 1? So x equals 1, it prints it, then we're adding 1. Oh, and then x equals 1 again. So we don't want this to be inside of the loop. So we add this, lol, sup, and you see we got 1, 2, sup. Right? That's how you do it. Now I want to be able to delete to do. So we can say del equals input, and we're gonna say enter to do to delete. Save that here. And now we're just going to do todos dot remove del underscore to do. If we run this and say lol sup, we say that, and we can say lol, and let me print the for loop again, and run this to do lol sup, and we're gonna do lol, and you can see we deleted it. So this is our base functionality, but you can see we don't want something like this because it only runs a couple of times. We want it to run until the user tells it to stop. So for that, we use something called while loop, while true loop thingy. So basically, inside here, you're going to run a certain amount of code infinite times, unless something like we're gonna have an if statement, like if user says to quit, we're going to quit out of the loop and break and end the code. So we're gonna do something like that. But basically, so to do something like that, I thought we could do something like print type 1 to add a to do, then they can do type 2 to delete a to do, type 3 to show to do's, and then type 4 to let's say type 4 to exit. Now basically we're going to take an input, user, we're going to name the input user equals input, and basically enter, and go like that. Now we're basically going to have and bunch of if else statements and if statements. So if user equals let me change this to an integer since it's going to be a string, like that. Now go to user, one, we're going to add a to-do. Now instead of typing the code, I'm going to be making a function. So I forgot to to-do list. So to-dos equals brackets. Now in here I'm going to be typing def add to-do. I'm going to be taking a function to do, and I'm going to do to-dos dot append to do, and we're going to do print good job, you made the to do. Now in here I'm going to do something else. I'm basically going to print an empty line just so I can make it a little neater. So yeah, so when they do number one, when the user types in number one, we're going to say add underscore to do, and we're gonna name that into another input. So we're gonna have another input, this enter to do, but we won't be needing one of the integer thingy, and this is going to be a to do, and we're going to pass in the to do right here. So we got the first part of our functionality done. Next is to delete. So let me just copy this, press enter, and do if user equals to enter to do to delete. Now we're gonna do to-dos dot remove to do. Now what I'm gonna do is something called a try block. Now basically try is basically self-explanatory. It's gonna try to remove to do from to-dos, but if that doesn't happen, we're gonna do except. We're gonna do print type a valid to do. So basically if they didn't type like a right to do or anything, it basically can't do this. So basically it's gonna do the except block and print type a valid to do. And after that we're going to take another type of valid to do and should go back to this loop. So yeah, we're gonna add a to do input, and basically, actually no, we can just leave it there, that's fine. So yeah, now we're gonna do 3. That's basically to show all of the to-dos. So if the user equals it to 3, we're gonna do the for loop we did before. So say x equals 1 for I in to-dos, print and f string x and I. I'm gonna make this not that large anymore since we don't need it. So yeah, that prints it out, and we're gonna do 4. So go here, user equals 4, We don't need all of this, so we're just gonna say print thanks for use. I didn't put a string. Thanks for using bye. Now when we run this, everything should be working. Type 1 all, type 1 sup, type 1 coding club is OP, and now if we press 3, and we can see a list of the to-dos we just made. Now we can delete a to-do and we can say low. Now if we type in 3 again, and we see we only have 2, and if we type in 4, thanks for using good. Oh, I forgot to put in the break. So put in the break, delete this, open it again, type 4, and you can see it exited. So that was our mini project. Now later in the video, after we learn about classes, we're going to be adding on to this to-do list. We're going to make like a really cool pet application, so every time you finish your to-do, you make your pet into like it's bigger and stronger. So basically like Pokemon but for to-do lists. But yeah, we're gonna make that after like probably like 3 more classes or something. But next video and in the Python tutorial list, we're gonna be making a personal voice assistant. So yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye.